Hello, in this video I want to talk about Walt Disney, sacred geometry, sacred architecture, and the esoteric or the occult world, especially to deal with Freemasons. So first we have Disney World in Florida and the Cinderella Castle there. So and we're going to reference these points, but back to the original Disneyland in Anaheim, California, and the Sleeping Beauty Castle. So here we see the Cinderella Castle in Florida and the Sleeping Beauty Castle in California. Now I'll also get to Disneyland in Japan, and this has the same thing going on, but just to focus on the Disneyland in California and America. Well, in Disneyland, California, famously Club 33, only place where you can get alcohol, restricted members only. And the Sydney Masonic Centre in Sydney, and very close by, Basement 33, so the compass and the square and the all-seeing eye. Sydney is a very the streets of Sydney, the layout of the plan, especially to do with Macquarie, very much based on esoteric, occult, Freemasonic knowledge. So here we see a picture of Disney as a member of the order DeMolay. DeMolay was a Knights Templar leader, very famous character, and well, even the Masonic Stamp Club shows Walt Disney's connection to the DeMolay order. So he was never actually a Freemason, but there are affiliated bodies. So here we see a Masonic showing the levels, Scottish and the Yorkite, and we see affiliated bodies there along the bottom, and I've highlighted here the Order of DeMolay, to which Walt Disney was a member. So very clearly Disneyland is based on occult knowledge, esoteric knowledge. It's written in plain sight, it's there to be measured, it's there to be observed, history is clear. Even connections with Indianapolis. So his first studio was in Indianapolis Scottish Rite Cathedral. I did a video on Indianapolis versus Sydney, and again to show these connections, how it's built into Washington, for instance, Canberra, Brasilia, Astana, and it really dominates our world, and it's one of these open secrets, hidden secrets, and again, it's there to be measured. But so first we'll start with California, Sleeping Beauty Castle in Disneyland in Los Angeles. So it's 77 feet high, which is the same height as the arch in Washington Square in New York City. George Washington, of course, very famous Mason, but more importantly, let's call him a conscientious Mason. He was a practitioner of the craft. He wasn't in it just as a social club. He was a fervent practitioner of the craft, of the whole shebang, let's call it. Okay, so and Huntsville, Texas, the Sam Houston statue. Sam Houston, again, he's a Mason. The Masonic Stamp Club includes him, and the statue itself is including the base, so 11-foot base and 65-foot statue. Sorry, 12-foot base and 65-foot statue gives us 77 feet. So it's the same height as the George Washington Arch in New York City, and it's the same height as the Sleeping Beauty Castle in Disneyland. And the Masonic connections to Sam Houston, again, they're not even hidden. They're quite blatant. You can see it here. Now, I might point out, I am not an anti-Mason. So let's just get that clear. And so if you think that that's where I'm going, no, I'm into the craft and the architecture, the sacred geometry, which they are practitioners of. Now, Sleeping Beauty Castle, 77 feet. It cannot be read unless you understand old measure systems such as the Cremona foot, which is virtually won't find any modern references to it, but you can, going back to the early 19th century, it was still out there. And from this Cremona foot and the Ionic and Doric as well, which I talk about a lot, you can read the symbolism and the connections to it. And so rather than make a whole new set of graphics, I'm going to recycle the Sam Houston statue, which is the same height as the Sleeping Beauty Castle in Disneyland. So on the Cremona scale, 792 inches. That's the diameter of the Earth in miles. 3 miles is a league, so 264. So again, the Cremona Palm 264 will give us dimensions of the Earth, again above 99.99%. The same thing happens is the long cubit. So the long foot was reverse engineered from Stonehenge, a very ancient system of measurement, and that's the key to this. Ancient systems of measures and ancient knowledge being preserved in plain sight. The Ionic Foot, the Ionic column being the central column in the tracing board, the Ionic Foot, which can be found in the Parthenon, ancient Greece, 264 again, will describe the Earth. So here we see the Earth being described with multiple numbers but across multiple ancient forms of measure. Harmony. 66 feet, 66,000 miles per hour is a slower portion of the Earth's orbital speed, and of course the 792 inches is 66 feet. 792 on the Ionic scale gives us a description of the diameter, equatorial diameter of the Sun. So Ionic furlong 66, again Sun, Earth and Moon we're going to see, and 66,000 Ionic furlong, the same as the speed of the Earth in miles, in the orbital speed of the Earth around the Sun, brings us to this particular set of numbers. So you're going to see this is the secret, the open secret in sacred geometry, sacred architecture, weights and measures. Now the Earth itself at short ton 66 and a whole lot of zeros, but so not just the speed, also the weight, also the dimensions we're seeing discussed here, and this is the beauty of the system. Canonical cubits, it's one of these contentious systems of measure, but definitely worth measuring because worth mentioning because it describes the Moon. But now 66, 792, 66 feet, 792 inches. The Sun, the Earth, the Moon, and New Jerusalem, also the Ark of Napishtim and the Tower of Babel could be included in this, as with Solomon's Temple, which included 120 cubits, which is a direct reference to the Ark of Napishtim, Preserver of Life, Tower of Babel, and New Jerusalem, just shifted scales, add a few zeros. Sun, Earth, and Moon, so also 792. 0000 Ionic cubits gives us the dimensions of the Moon, and again Sun, Earth, Moon and the stars, and we're going to get to that briefly, but it's there to be measured. It's part of his system. Now these other numbers along the scale are also very important. Now this is a modern measure, 88 constellations now, but the fact is that the modern scientific world is still using these systems, and the Bureau of Weights and Measures, International Standards of Weights and Measures are an occult group. Get that clear, they're an occult group and they're still using this method. Now also 198 will also, so you know this whole scale just resonates with this. It's there. And the modern world, modern sciences are based on weights and measures. The agencies which regulate weights and measures use this constantly. The astronomical major bodies, all of them. It's just a fact, and it really blows the modern materialist has this view of the world which is just so wrong. They think that this system is a relic of a past and has been gone and forgotten. No, it's being practiced to this very day. Ian Pay, Norman Foster, Tony Rosenthal, so many others, they're using this now. Sun, Earth, Moon and stars. So the speed of the solar system, 792,000 kilometers around the core, but also the as we move up and down the galactic plane, 66 million year cycle. Here's the system still being used. Modern sciences were not only based on it, they're still practicing it, and it's just hidden. And let's get that straight, that's a fact. Or you can call it a coincidence, in which case you're a little bit... So, Sun, Earth, Moon and stars on these Masonic tracing boards, and the architecture of Walt Disney. And this is just the tip. So we've just Disneyland, California, Club 33, Basement 33, Sydney. Again, we're going to refer back to Sydney. And Walt Disney, Order of DeMolay, not a secret. Now, even the Disney logo itself. So you see the Y in Disney is the symbol for 5, a golden ratio, the divine proportion. Even the I is itself a reference to the symbol for 5, the alternate symbol. And Walt Disney, look up, you can find it on YouTube, Donald Duck in Mathmagic Land. He explains this clearly. It's not hidden, it's out there, and this is a very important cartoon, excellent cartoon, where he talks about the Pythagorean schools and their secret symbol, the pentagram. This is not satanic, if you want to put it this way. It's the divine proportion. This is the pentagram proportions define nature across all of nature and the architecture as well. So even the Fibonacci spiral, which comes from this system of rectangles. I've done many videos on how to draw it. He also talks in this particular cartoon, talks about even the UN headquarters in New York is built to the phi ratio. Seashells, flowers, so many other things he'll include it, snails. But the important point is that now this cartoon has many little subtle symbols in it, and just one of them, now is the time, now is the time. Now is the time indeed for this knowledge to be revealed and talked about openly. It's your birthright. The education system needs to be smashed and reorganized along the Hermetic principles of the 7 liberal arts. Now you might think, oh well, this is just a nice series of coincidences. There's nothing to see here. Let's not pay attention. This is just some rambling conspiracy theorist. Well, we'll keep going, and at least in my mind, the esoteric code written across the world, which I've covered so many sites, so many other places, but. So, Sleeping Beauty Castle in Disneyland, California. Well, Cinderella Castle in Walt Disney World in Sydney is 189 feet, which is exactly the same height as Sydney Town Hall here in Sydney, which again I included in an earlier video. I went through the connections, including to the next door St Andrew's Cathedral, and how the same system repeats through back through Europe, back to the earliest history of India, Sumer, Babylon, and Egypt, of course. Now, Sydney Town Hall, very strong Masonic connections, because that's where the grand installations and the larger meetings are held. Not at the Sydney Masonic Centre, but at Sydney Town Hall. And so, well, here we see the hall, 189 feet. The breakdowns in the standard, in the well-known, in the common imperial system, that's of course the same height as the castle in Florida. Well, 1,890 Egyptian royal miles, 756,000 Egyptian royal miles. Moon and sun, and Eratosthenes measured the polar circumference of the Earth at 252. Worth pointing that the Doric columns, very important in the occult world, especially Freemason tracing boards. It's prominent, very important. 29.53125 Doric fathom is the conversion point. Why is that important? Well, the synodic month, from how we full moons per is a full moon. A synodic month defines the full moon. Synodic month also creates the eclipses. It's essential in understanding that. And the synodic month is a relationship of Earth, Moon, and Sun. Very important point, and it happens every 29.53 days. Now 125 as well, because of it's not a perfect orbit. It's an elliptical orbit. So even that exact number will work exactly with this system. However, this is by no means the end of it, because Sun, Earth, and Moon synodic. Well, also we have to talk about the Sidereal Month, which is an orbit of the Moon around the Earth in relation to a fixed star. Sun, Earth, Moon, and stars. 29.53125 Doric fathom is 109.375 canonical cubits, which is 27.34375 times 4. This 273.34375 is hugely important. Now, you'll see on the, for instance, 27.32. So, one sidereal month, 27.34375 will also be included, again because of the elliptical nature of orbits, and because of issues of measurement, there's always a margin of error. But so one moon day will take 27.3 to up to 4 Earth days. Now, one moon year, so a sidereal month, is exactly the same number. Now, a slight shift, so that's why the far side of a moon always faces away, and that slight shift is also why we see just a fraction over 50%, not exactly 50%, we see a little bit over, and that, so that, even though you'll see on the cards 27.32, that will in fact include 27.34375. So these ancient measure systems, these lesser known measure systems, incorporate this knowledge of Sun, Earth, Moon and the stars. Now, as the Earth revolves around the Sun, average of 26.9 degrees, but because of the elliptical nature of the orbits and other forces, that will also include 27.34 degrees. So once again, the size of the Earth is, well, it's 27.3, and the margins of error in measurement, so we can actually include 27.34375. A number of degrees the Earth revolves around the Sun in that time will also extend. So I've used 27. I've used the average there, and then included that to show how the expansion and the the elasticity in these measures. Now, the elasticity will incorporate these numbers so that during times of year, this will be with 100% accuracy. Now, the Moon is 27.3% the size of the Earth. Now, again, within margins of error, and the other issues with measurement, because measurement's a very tricky thing. Now, even satellites have to include this margin of error, and that will expand out to include this. The distance from the Earth to the Moon at its farthest point will actually even stretch out to be 273,34375 AU, 1 AU being distance from the Earth to the Sun on average. So again, this elasticity in the numbers. So we've already seen the relationship of size and time regarding Earth, Sun and Moon. And now we include the sidereal month, and, which is the stars, and we see again the same harmony. Now the Moon doesn't go around the centre of Earth, goes around the barycenter, which is 27.3% below the surface of the Earth, or 5,000 miles. Again, because of the movement of these things, it will include 27.34375. For all these things to come together, all the numbers of this modern imperial, so-called modern imperial, the Doric, we've seen Ionic, but also the canonical cubit, which is here again 6/5 cubed feet, 1728. Now you might be familiar with that's a direct reference also to New Jerusalem, the Ark of Utnapishtim, Tower of the arcs as well. Now, also consider the fact, so the Earth is 27.3% the size of the Earth, but the Sun is 400 times larger. That gives us 1092. Again, include the elasticity, and we have this magic happening again. Well, by that I mean that at 0.273 ratio of Earth to Moon size, and the Moon to Sun is 400, multiply them, you get 109.2. Again, include the elasticity, that's 109,375. Multiply, well, the Sun circumference in miles, 2734. You see again, it's a gas. It's not a solid clear surface, so that will again include 273,3475. Multiply the diameter of the Earth by 109.2 up to 109.375. You get the circumference. The diameter of the Sun. Multiply the diameter of the Sun by 109,375. You get the distance from the Sun to the Earth, Sun and Moon. Even the circumference of the Moon, 1092 kilometers. Now, if you include the bulging, that increases it, which again brings it, if not perfect, but above 99.999% accuracy once more. Skeptics, well, skepticism has been hijacked, but you might say that this is a curious, unique coincidence to these buildings, this measurement. Well, no. Indianapolis Scottish Rite Cathedral, the same number in Doric fathom. Doric fathom again. Doric chain, the Georgia Guidestones, same exact number, just shift a decimal point. Suez Canal, the original bottom depth, and I just recently did a Suez Canal video, showed how that whole structure from beginning until recent renovations, modifications include the same beautiful sets of numbers that we've just shown throughout this system here. Kulwala Chambers here in Sydney, important. You might think that's a freak. Well, in Egyptian Royal Miles, well, again, 10 times that, you get the arch length of a Sydney Harbour Bridge. 273, 3475 Egyptian Royal Miles. So again, the cubes of Tony Rosenthal. There's basically two formats, but both of them have in Doric and Ionic, or just the Doric, but 273, 3475. Avoirdupois weight system, where goes back to, again, these same numbers. You know, coincidence be damned. This is not a coincidence. This is the Hermetic tradition spans time. Now, the Cremona Foot, I mentioned that earlier in regards to the Sleeping Beauty Castle, the first one, which connects, of course, to the Sam Houston Masonic statue. Well, 189 feet converts to Cremona, and on a whole number scale, but not only on a whole number scale, but on this Pythagorean beautiful scale of numbers, which again describes geometry, astronomy, music, arithmetic, the quadrivium of the seven liberal arts, Platonic year, the circumference of the earth, cubes, New Jerusalem, the diameter of the moon in the miles that we use now. That's to be minutes per 360 degree compass. Of course, the vesica, I've only included one version, but vesica and the rhombus within resonates with all of these numbers. I could have made many more cards. I'm just recycling ones that I've made now. Of course, the dodecahedron, the sun and the moon, and also the Platonic season. We saw earlier the Platonic month, which is a guesstimate of each age, but Platonic season, 4 cardinal points exact. Music, of course, and moon, how it converts to other sets of measurement systems and breakdowns, but of course it includes ancient systems of measurement which supposedly have nothing in common with our modern time. Now, it's again to bring up that number 108, we bring back the synodic month. 23.35125 times the diameter of the earth is distance to the moon, and 108 times the diameter of the moon is a distance to the earth. And the moon itself on the long scale is 108 diameter, or 1080 miles radius. Sun, Earth, Moon, cycles of time, proportions of size, the angles there within are all exquisitely, intricately, beautifully connected to this system. Sun, Earth, Moon and stars, weights and measures, the esoteric occult tradition, or the Hermetic code, the ancient sciences, which are in fact the basis for our modern sciences. However much people want to, we've been taught to hate an idea like that, but Oppenheimer and Einstein are right. Same with Tesla. All these giants of science history were Hermeticists. They were deep. They learnt and they studied the ancient traditions. Now, another interesting quirk, what's considered the most beautiful equation in maths, in regards to I, pi, and Euler's number, how we see +1 equals 0. Beautiful equation. Well, that's this same measurement converts to 178181 Royal Babylonian feet, which is exactly the same as the Mohenjo Daro foot. Now, ancient systems of weights and measure, history is a crock when it comes to this. They have no bloody idea. Now, so another lovely coincidence, E minus 1, as we saw with the most beautiful equation, we get 17, so a sliver off this, just again, shifted decimal points. And the Old Kingdom Egyptian royal cubit used to define the Great Pyramid, well, it's essentially it's the same number we have again within these margins of error and percentages. It's so close. It's absolutely amazing. However, I can hear the doubters, let's call them, doubting Thomases, and they say, well, this is all just a nice coincidence with a few things mixed in, but it's really just essentially just a coincidence, because I've watched an episode of Mythbusters, and he's told me everything is random, and these things are a psychological issue. I've read some memes from skeptics, or I've learnt how to, from these memes, how to mock things and destroy deny them. Denial. It's not a river in Egypt, it's a mental health condition. Well, so this is all just coincidence, you might say. Well, we have a review through, so again, this is a symphony of coincidence. It's all meaningless, there's nothing here, it's just one thing after another, exquisitely connected and combined. It's all joined, it's all in unison, but it's just a coincidence, and these things just sort of happen just by accident. Well, let's take it a little bit further. So we had Disneyland in Florida and we had Disneyland in California. Well, let's go to Tokyo Disney. It's not the same height of either of the two castles over there, and the castles are the central points of these things. Now, Disney's connected with the occult, even the origins in Indianapolis, the Indianapolis Scottish Rite Cathedral, and the breakdowns of the measures. These are, of course, all just a series of meaningless coincidences, nothing to see here. Well, I'm quite comfortable in my worldview that it converts to 1890 Doric inches, and that the diameter of the moon is 1890 Egyptian royal miles, or the royal mile in Scotland. This is just all sheer coincidence. But and that Eastern traditions, as I've shown in earlier videos, the geometry, even the older streams of chemistry. Alchemy is chemistry. It's just there's an arbitrary point where it becomes officially chemistry. All that such magazines as the International Standard, which talks about dissemination of a sacred knowledge of the Giza Pyramid, is full of these numbers, and that these numbers, of course, connect to time, and that they're mathematically beautiful, and that the ancient people also had a 24-hour clock, and that they also were, whether it was in sundials or the modern chronometer era, or that the breakdowns of the seconds and the hours per day and the hours per week, not to excluding the seconds per week as well, and that this so much connects to ancient connections, or 1440 minutes per day. Again, how this is all just systems that the weights and measures of the ancient times just happen to connect with the weights and measures of a modern time. Musical scales, and that Disney in Mathmagic land included the Pythagoreans, not just for the golden number and how that applies to ancient and modern architecture, but also to music, and how this golden number also connects to, well, the number 144. Other examples I've shown in other videos, how these great cathedrals, ancient structures, all have these Fibonacci fire-related, geometric-related numbers. Two-dimensional geometry, three-dimensional geometry, Platonic solids, very much connected to the Pythagorean schools. The essence of sacred geometry being the vesica and the rhombus contained therein, that it also breaks down into 14400 minutes. This is all coincidence, and that these numbers, as with earlier, again the Fibonacci, but 12th Fibonacci 144 being 12 squared, and that across the 3 and then across 4 dimensions, that these numbers are the most beautiful, perfect numbers out there. Also, that Rosicrucian music scales connect, and 10,080 seconds per hour coincidentally, but the octaves 144. And of course, it's just sheer luck that the yugas, so the ancient Eastern traditions, I'm not including the Far Eastern and China, including the first emperor of China and the Li and his other weights and measures, and the literature and the ancient systems there connect. All that the Mayans, who didn't have base 12, are working on base 20, but still come to the same sets of numbers in their cycles of time as in the modern Western, Egyptian, Sumerian. All that the description of New Jerusalem so intricately matches the description of the Ark in the Epic of Gilgamesh, and that these numbers again are so much connected to Tokyo Disney, or Disney in California, or Disney in Florida. All that these numbers also describe Bode's law, who predicted the presence of Ceres and other planets using geometry before we knew, and they've been verified since then, and that astronomers are now using that to find distant planets. All that the diameters of the moon, the distance of the moon from Earth, as we showed earlier, the maximum but also the minimum distance connects to these sets of numbers. And of course, just to bring back in the Egyptian royal miles, and that the Doric scale, the Doric column being important on esoteric tracing boards, this is all just sheer luck. And Sun, Earth and Moon, again, just sheer luck. Didn't happen, deny, and that's sadly the state of modern skepticism. Skepticism is a wonderful thing. Modern skepticism is about denial and about an ideology to protect the materialist view of the world at all costs. And Disney was a practitioner of the Hermetic code. He showed it in his early cartoons. He was a Pythagorean, a member of the order of DeMolay. And, well, that's just a fact. It's a measurable, testable fact. I've covered surely now over 100 sites in the modern world, going back also including the ancient world. Now, this might all be reduced to coincidence and a few structures, but Shanghai Disney is matched by Tokyo Disney. They're not the same height, once again. Shanghai Disney is 196 feet high, which is 168 Cremona feet, as where Tokyo Disney is 168 feet, and through the Cremona scale we get the superb numbers going on. So it just keeps adding and adding. It really is part of Disney ethos. As a boy, I was lucky enough to travel to Disneyland and also into some places in Europe, Rome and around the Adriatic Sea, and Venice as well. Now, at the time, I was too young and really had no idea of geometry and the importance of esoteric symbolism. And, well, as I've grown up, and because I'm lucky enough to be born in the age of the internet, I've been able to learn from others and add to this and put my own ideas together, and now am able to see and recognize, especially in the entertainment industry, the use of these types of symbols. And through open-mindedness, I also can see past the veil, which would label all this immediately as evil or somehow dangerous. Sun, Earth, Moon and the stars. And so seeing the Disney cartoon Donald Duck in Mathmagic Land, I really, especially that one clip that now is the time indeed. We need to go look past the modern materialist views and start to look deeper and look back. Now is the time to bring back the Hermetic code. Now we have the information and the systems and the tools where we can reinvigorate and take this back from those who would hold it to themselves. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed and have a good one.